Hey YouTube, here Aqualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Violence Bruce Dark States deck profile for June 2021. Big thanks to my girlfriend Marissa for letting me borrow her Violence Bruce deck for the deck profile. Be sure to check out her channel as well. She'll have her own version of the Violence Bruce deck on her channel for you all to see as well. But this is a deck that was used by Donji in the Overdress series. Really awesome deck that focuses on the gimmick for it is starting late but paying off big with Final Rush. So with the Violence Bruce Final Rush deck, I wanted to bring you all my version of this deck and being one of the final ones for all of the 10 lineups of different deck profiles we had from the genesis of the 5 Greats booster set. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the start deck, our starter is the Diabolos Innocent Matte. Just the standard when wrote upon, if you went second, draw a card. The real important plays start with our grade 1, which is Diabolos Bad Steve. When this unit is placed on Vanguard, choose a card from your soul, call it to your back row, center, rear, and then soul charge 1. So building up soul is very important for this deck because you need soul blasting for our Final Rush state Violence Bruce card ability. So being able just to call Matt to the rear guard will set up that play of just the 1 additional soul guard, and then that will come in handy for our grade 2, which is Diabolos Anger Richard. When this unit is placed on rear, put a rear guard into your soul and draw 1 card. So you'll put the starter most of the time into the rear guard, into the soul, and not only will that put that card back into your soul for you to use, but it gives you a draw. So basically relying on that card for it puts more and more soul and gives you the 5 when you go into your main grade 3, which is your Diabolos Violence Bruce, which along with the additional 1 in the start deck, we are running 3 copies in the actual main deck. So with Diabolos Violence Bruce on Vanguard Circle at the start of your ride phase, you Final Rush, and specific units get a power up when you are in Final Rush. So this is a card state that basically applies to the fighter themselves and not the actual unit on the field. Very unique for Cardfight Vanguard that we have something like this with Final Rush. You can declare Final Rush with this unit and then ride into another Violence Bruce, and since it's a whole new unit, you can still be in Final Rush since you yourself as the fighter are in the Final Rush state. And on Vanguard Circle, when this unit attacks, if you were in Final Rush, you Soul Blast 5 and stand all of your front row rear guards. So once again, building up soul, very important, because with that pressure and also with some of the units when they restand, can gain additional card abilities depending on which ones you restand with your Diabolos Violence Bruce. For the added backup grade 3 for the deck, I also run 4 copies of Upward Acrobat Marjorie on rearguard once per turn. When this unit attacks, if you were in Final Rush, put one of your other rearguards into your soul, draw a card, soul charge 1, and this unit gets plus 10,000 till end of turn. So the fact that it's at end of turn means that if you attack with this card and it's at 23,000 power, not only can you build up the soul for Violence Bruce, but when it restands again, you'll still be at that 23,000 power when you restand thanks to Violence Bruce's pressure. And also putting rearguard into your soul and soul charging 1 can just, like I said, give you the couple more cards you need for you to reach the Violence Bruce Final Rush state altogether. So a great backup grade 3 to use for those plays. And that is it for the grade 3s. We'll now move on to the grade 2s. The best grade 2 that we run in the deck is Diabolos Boys Eden. If you were in Final Rush, this unit gets plus 5,000 power. If this unit restood this turn by a card effect, it also gets a critical +1. So yeah, on the first attack, just like the kind of playstyle of Violence Bruce, the slow start for the first play, but when you restand it for Final Rush, it just comes back as a whole, tougher unit. And when this unit attack hits, you can counter +1 and choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So it doesn't even have to just hit the Vanguard. You can hit one of your opponent's rear guards with the first attack of Eden and then restand it again, and then use that second attack with the additional critical to hit at your opponent's Vanguard. The +5 also helps because when you're in Final Rush, being 15,000 power, it can attack alone if you don't have a booster for your opponent. But with you Persona riding, 25,000 power means it's just an additional difficult guard for your opponent to block for their rear guard, and if that attack hits, you get an additional retire, and also the extra critical when you attack your Vanguard again. For the last of the grade 2s, I also run 3 Diabolos Anger Richard in the main deck as well. I thought of the Colossus grade 3 as an added backup for an additional grade 3, but also just for the fact that you do use a good amount of cost with your Eden and also your Marjorie for plays. Just having a 5,000 power when you're in Final Rush state with Diabolos Anger Richard is good backup just as a free call. Final Rush and you're in 15,000 power. If you Persona ride the 25,000 just like Eden. Eden provides the extra critical, so it's a card I like to see more more often on the field, but still, Anger Richard can provide a very good backup. For more of the soul power, I also run 3 of the Selfish Engraver as added backup for the grade 2s. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked. If your soul has 10 or more cards, put this unit into your soul, and you countercharge 1. The countercharge doesn't help as much, just to be more in here for when this unit attack hits, you soul charge 1. It's good pressure for just having more and more soul, so you can at least final rush more than once per game, because you need that 5 soul buildup. When you're not relying on Marjorie, it's good to have other backup cards to use, like Selfish Engraver for those plays. And I also run now, moving on to the grade 1s, 3 of the Protobulb Dragon. When this unit attacks or boost, if you are in final rush, counter +1, put another rear guard into your soul, choose a card from your soul, and put it into your hand. So I might even consider bumping this card up to 4. If I were, I would take out one of these Selfish Engravers for just an additional number of this in the deck. Being able to add a card from your soul into your hand is a big plus for sure, because if you have a Sentinel, let's say that you soul charge, being able to add it back to your hand to reuse, and then just put a card that's not as useful into your hand, into your soul, for you to Soul Blast for final rush, and all it has to do is attack or boost. So even if this card is alone and you Persona Road at 18,000 power, as long as you're in final rush, you have that option for more and more the setup to use then to restand this card with Violence Bruce. And also, I run 3 of the Acrobat Presenter. When this unit attacks or boosts, if this Vanguard is Diabolos Violence Bruce, you soul charge 1. If you're in final rush, you soul charge 1. So a soul charge of 2 just when this card attacks or boosts kind of just provides additional support for all the different cards in the deck. If you have multiples of this card in the field, you can hit more and more with this card for that pressure. It's great for that. I even considered just dropping the numbers of Selfish Engravers even more, adding in more copies of the Protobulb Dragon and the Acrobat Presenter, and just running 1 Selfish Engraver for those number options, just for the fact that how much quickly this card can provide the Soul Blast option, but player preference, because I did want to keep some of the grade 2s in the deck, because these cards really need the power boost of, Persona riding or just getting a trigger to be able to hit on their own, and when they're not doing that, they'll just be providing a boost. And lastly, for the grade 1 units, I'm also running 4 of these Sentinel, the Recusal Hate Dragon. I've gone through it on each one of the videos, but with the new Sentinel, when you guard with it, if you only have 1 card in your hand, and that 1 card is the Sentinel, you don't have to discard this card for the cost of the 1 Sentinel. So it's basically a free cost Sentinel, and then you can use the last one to block your opponent's final attack as well, depending on, if you wanted to block the Vanguard to reassure yourself that the over trigger wouldn't hit, and then having 1 more trigger if your opponent were to give the rear guard the 100 million power, the last Sentinel to block that attack also. And then for the only normal order that we are running in the deck, I run 3 Brother Soul, just for the once per turn hit of the soul charge power of this card. Just being able to soul charge 2 can be those last couple numbers you need with all the other additional soul charge power we have in this deck to rely on for hitting the numbers needed for soul blasting for Violence Bruce. And then for the triggers, we already went over the starter with the start deck. I am running the 5 critical just as a preference, so 4 Diabolos Girls Mimel and 1 of the Flinty Slasher. I run 5 critical more for the fact that with our next lineup, it's really good for the pressure, but I also run 5 draw triggers. So with that, I am running 4 of the Diabolos Boys Jake and 2 of the Vital Lever. I miscounted there, I meant to say 6 draw triggers, but more for the fact that the hand consistency is one of the bigger weaknesses with this deck. So I find that 5 critical and 6 draw trigger just help so I can keep hand, units on the field, you name it, for all of my different plays. With the last of the non-heal triggers being our over trigger, which is our Hades Dragon Deity of Resentment. This one having the additional effect of during your turn, all your Vanguards get plus 10,000 additional critical if you revealed it for the drive check. Having this early game makes it that much more scary, because then your Violence Bruce will always have the additional 10,000 power and critical to work with against your opponent. And lastly, for the heal, just the most fitting heal for the deck is Diabolos Girls Arlena. With this one, just like I said, the football aspect of the Final Rush deck, very, very fitting with all the other Diabolos cards as well. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video with that. Like I said, this marks the final deck profile from the genesis of the 5 Greats booster set. I might make some other ones, maybe some budget versions of the different decks we have from this set. Or I'm, just wait until the festival collection comes out as well, because that's right around the corner, and may just do some more fights on the channel for everyone to see. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.